to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I am here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all your questions about politics. Nobody's going to judge you, nobody's going to roast you, nobody's going to make fun of you. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat. We will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I'm not here to judge you or roast you or get into a fight with you. Ethan asks, "Did you ever meet Charlie Kirk?" I never met Charlie Kirk. But thank you for your question, Ethan. I appreciate that. All right, everybody, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. What's up, Blanca Falcon? Ethan says, "Do you think you could beat him in a debate?" I don't think that. So I don't think that what Charlie Kirk did was debating. You know, like debates usually have rules, and you have to kind of like be factual when you're doing a debate, and that's not what Charlie Kirk would do. He would just go like make up shit in order to win. And so, you know, I don't think there's any winning if the person that you're talking to is just going to make shit up. So I would do my best, I suppose. Yeah, if you know the person you're talking to just makes shit up, then it's really easy for them to appear as though they are doing a better job than you. That's why some people, you know, looked at, you know, the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and decided to vote for Donald Trump because Donald Trump just made up a whole bunch of shit. Brooklyn Free says, "What did he make up?" You know, this is the part of the show where I go to PolitiFact and I look up a list of things that Charlie Kirk lied about. Let's see here. All right, what's up, Brooklyn Free? Thank you so much for your question. Okay, Charlie Kirk, the 14th Amendment has never been challenged at SCOTUS. That was false. Jamie Foxx was left paralyzed and blind from a brain clot in his brain after a COVID-19 vaccine injection. That is a lie. Charlie Kirk, Maricopa County intentionally reduced the polling places. That is also a lie. I can keep going. There's a bunch of these, Brooklyn. Let me know. All right, but to everybody else, welcome. My name is Jared Berenstein. What is up, the left center back? I am here to answer all your questions about politics. What is up, John Abbott? So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know. Put it in the chat. El Toro Perro, good to see you again, says, "What can Karen Bass do to get voters to forget the last 4 years of her leadership?" I'm a Nithya Raman voter, but if she doesn't make it out of the primary, then I'm voting for Karen Bass. I don't think that Karen Bass will do a worse job in her second term than Spencer Pratt would do as mayor. So yeah, you know, some good stuff there, some bad stuff there. 1161 says, "Want to hear a good speech?" No, thank you. Brooklyn Free says, "He made that claim about Jamie Foxx." He 100% did. Joe Maz says, "Why no accountability?" Are you thinking of somebody specifically, Joe Maz? Because I have some. If you're asking why people like Donald Trump and others in the Republican Party are not, there's no accountability for them, I have an answer for you there. Pan says, "Does Trump call Netanyahu crazy because he's genuinely angry, or it's just an act?" So I think it's very likely that that conversation really happened. Donald Trump likes yelling at people, but I don't think he gets any points for saying things to Netanyahu that he should have said a year ago. I don't think he gets any points for yelling at Netanyahu and then continuing to support him and his campaigns and his wars and his administration. So, you know, et cetera, et cetera. All right, Brooklyn Free says, "Was the protest at Delaney Hall peaceful?" I'm pretty confident that it was. I wasn't there, but in the history of protesters versus ICE, the people who are usually doing the violence is ICE. Luca says, "Would you prefer to live in a communist country or a capitalist country?" So there's never been a fully communist or capitalist country. Every country, I would say most countries have like a mixed model of a little capitalism, a little socialism, a little communism. I guess I'd probably want to live in a communist country, but I guess the devil's in the details. Octopi says, "Do you think Trump's second election win was history repeating itself?" I mean, are you referring to like the history of the 1940s? Because there are a lot of similarities if you're thinking of the same painter that I am. Some dude says, "What do you do to relax to keep yourself sane?" Well, normally I would garden, but because I have a baby, I'm not allowed to do that. So now I guess the thing I do to relax is, oh, you know what? I like going to the gym. Now that's like my one fun activity that I am allowed to do now that I have a baby. And so I go to the gym. The gym that I go to has a sauna. Sometimes I get a massage when I'm done. That's usually what I do. But before I had a baby, I was big into gardening and watching movies. Joe Matt says, "No J6 liars." You're asking why there's no accountability for the January 6th, the people that did January 6th? The reason is because Trump pardoned them all. Jamie Don says, "What do you think of the Austrian painter?" I'm against him. Some dude said, all right, did that one. Crumb says, "Is there any part of this administration that isn't corrupt?" No. Elia Giordano says, "What do you think about Georgia Maloney?" I'm pretty sure I don't like her. Jamie Balak says, "What do you think of the UK?" I mean, I like the UK. I like every country. It's just every government I don't respect every government. I respect every country. Mel says, "Will Blanche be confirmed for AG?" I don't think so. The concern is that Trump could just keep him as acting. Oh, wait, he's not AG. Todd Blanche. Yeah, Todd Blanche. Um, yeah, I don't think so. But I could be wrong. Trump has used up a lot of the credit that he had with elected Republicans in campaigning, against them. So a bunch of them lost their primary because of him. So yeah, for Blanche and for the new DNI head, I don't know. Um, you know, I nobody knows for sure for certain, but I think it is. I think it is potentially those nominations will not go forward, is my guess. All right, Judge Holden says, "Should Trump have been charged for January 6th?" Yes. Katongo Slot says, "Who will win the Zambia election?" I don't know. Travis Bickle says, "Thoughts on Israel?" I support the citizens of Israel. I do not support the government of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, and many independent organizations have declared unequivocally that he is trying to do a genocide in addition to starting wars with all of his neighboring countries. Somebody with no picture or screen name says, "What's your view about South Lebanon and how much the FPV drones has affected the battlefield?" Unfortunately, that's a little over my head, so sorry about that. Finlay from WWE says, "What happened to the U.S.? How did they become the evil empire from Star Wars in such a short period?" I mean, many people would probably argue that America has never been the good guys. If you take a look at everything we've done, it's a pretty close game, like whether we're good guys or bad guys. So this just seems like the logical extension of what a country that did the war in Iraq under George W. Bush and did the war in Afghanistan under George W. Bush and did all the fucking shit under Reagan and did all that shit under Nixon. Yeah, we got a real mixed history of good versus bad. Okay, David says, "Thoughts on the Ebola outbreak in the Congo?" I certainly wish that America still had connections with organizations that were dedicated to stopping dangerous infectious diseases like Ebola. I sure wish that we weren't currently being governed by the exact same administration that allowed the COVID-19 pandemic to run rampant. I certainly wish we had organizations like USAID still well funded that are tasked with aiding in stopping infectious diseases like that from spreading and keeping them coming to America. It's the Trump administration was kind of like designed in a lab to allow infectious diseases like Ebola to escape from their specific locations and become global pandemics. So I don't love it. Short answer. Stefan Gustafsson says, "Best way to fix the school system, fund it, pay teachers better." Starzy says, "What do you think about the Henry Novak incident?" I don't know anything about it. Some dude says, "Are you feeling about the 60 Minutes shakeup?" I mean, we could have predicted all of this. Like in the beginning of Trump's second term, all of the heads of the major news organizations basically bent the knee to the Trump administration, and what was it? CBS is 60 Minutes. They hired Barry Weiss, who is a right wing political hack disguised as a centrist, to sort of like transform their news agency from being center right to being far right. So yeah, it's like obviously this shit was gonna happen. All right, let's see here. The center left back says, "What are your thoughts on Gavin Newsom's very cozy relationship with Pacific Gas and Electric taking over $700,000 to fund Newsom's political campaigns in respect to trusting him with the Democratic primary?" So there's a lot of stuff in Gavin Newsom's history that I find kind of sus, like his relationship with Panera, for example. But Gavin Newsom is a completely average politician. Like the sus things in his history are pretty generic. He's done some good things. He's done some bad things. I'm not supporting him in the primary. If he wins the primary, he is 100% getting my vote, and I will do everything I can to elect him president, because I guarantee you he's going to be better than whatever ding dong the Republican Party puts up for their nominee. Logan says, opinion on RFK: he's a liar and a con artist. He is the reason why we have so many more infectious diseases running rampant in America. Our measles numbers are fucking through the roof because of shit like what RFK Jr. is doing. Ohio Born says, why do they allow bot farms to hurt Americans and produce... Hold on a second. I just got reported for harassment and bullying. Can somebody tell me what harassing and bullying I did? Can anybody explain it to me? Because I don't think that I did. I'm pretty confident that I didn't do any harassing and bullying. So I'm really curious. Whoever reported me, let me know. Because I want to be better. I don't want to be harassing and bullying people to the point where y'all will report me for harassing and bullying. So if you could just tell me what I did or said that made you want to report me for harassing and bullying, I would love to hear it. I think there's a possibility that the algorithm is just doing this like automatically, like there's no human being that's doing this, but I'm also pretty confident that it's also possible that some right-wing person is just reporting me because I'm saying things that they don't like. But all I said about RFK Jr. was that he was a liar and a con artist, which are accurate statements. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Every time I get reported for harassing and bullying, I have to stop and restart my TikTok live stream. So please come back. I'm going to stop and restart. Please come right back to my TikTok live stream, everybody. Please come right back. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see what is going over here. Rad HG says RFK is a joke. Completely agree with that. The left center back says, yeah, I think that he is a safe pick, but the Dems can do better. I agree, but I am not in control of all of the primary voters, unfortunately. One of the things that I think, one of the not a misnomer, but a false belief that a lot of people have is that the DNC picks the nominee. But that is not what happens. The voters pick the nominee, and then people complain about the person that the majority of voters voted for. All right, Lord Vader says, do you think Jar Jar giving emergency powers to Palpatine was a lead causing the empirical rise? I think it was one of the things. They probably shouldn't have made somebody who doesn't have the creative mental capacity as senator. X says, do you think the IRGC didn't attack the Kuwait airport as they say? So where specific things that the IRGC did or did not do, I'm not 100% on that. I need to wait for official reporting to come out. Yeah, it's chaos over there. Fog of war shit. So yeah, just thumbs down on all that, Okay, Rad HG says opinions on the U.S. shift towards digital currency /ID. I don't know of a good use case for digital currency besides crime. Jacob Byte says, what do you think of Trump? Trump is one of the worst presidents we've ever had. Unbelievably corrupt, unbelievably incompetent. Okay, Yeah, I worry about I worry about a system that is 100% digital, both currency and ID wise, and that it is hackable. You know. Okay, somebody who with no username says, "What do you think of socialism?" I think it's fine. I like a mixed model. I like to have a little socialism mixed in with my economy. Chloe says, "Do you think all Republicans are bad?" I don't think that all Republican voters are bad, but I have a hard time believing that every elected Republican is not bad because of the things that they have done, the things they have allowed to happen, the platform that they agree to sign their name onto, the things that they vote for, the nominees that they have voted to advance, like the way that they run their states and cities. Yeah, I'm open to an argument that they're not, but I haven't seen it. Okay, Jacob Byte says, "What do you think about people trying to kill Trump?" I'm against all violence. I'm against all violence, and so I do not believe in political assassinations. Rafa Cool says, "Do you support Israel or Lebanon?" I support the citizens of both countries. I do not support the government of Israel. I don't know anything about the government of Lebanon, so I couldn't tell you any more about that. Okay, welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Somebody's screen am I? What should I call you, a person who's asking me about Zionism and anti-Semitism? Because all I see, it looks like a person or a birthday cake or something. In my glasses to see what these emojis are. So somebody with no name says, "Is anti-Zionism the same as anti-Semitism?" No, because there are two different definitions of what Zionism is. Zionism, some people believe, is just Israel. The country has the right to exist, and the people that currently live there are allowed to stay there, and they should be able to live their lives in peace. Some people believe that Zionism means that Israel is allowed to conquer all of their neighboring nations and are allowed to subjugate the people of Palestine and treat them like second-class citizens and turn Palestine into an open-air prison. So yeah, I do not believe that. I do not believe that anti-Zionism is the same as anti-Semitism. If you don't believe that the people who are currently living in Israel are allowed to stay there, I'm open to an argument that you're being anti-Semitic, or at the very least you are being very inconsiderate to a group of innocent civilians. Okay, Chloe says, "What do you think about Kamala supporting the genocide?" Kamala Harris did not support Israel doing a genocide against the people of Palestine, and I'm happy to go into more detail on that, Chloe. But there's a lot of hyperbole around what Kamala Harris or Joe Biden did in concern to Israel, and it is a little bit more complicated than just saying that Kamala Harris supported the genocide. Viking said, "Stein, and then I don't know what that thing is. I'm going to give you an opportunity to stop being anti-Semitic, Viking. So just know that you are on thin ice." Chloe says, "Could you please go into more detail since I don't know much about politics?" Sorry, no, that's totally fine, Chloe. You're all good. Let me get to Rad HG real quick here. Because Right HG says the DNC does support Israeli interests, but yeah, Kamala didn't specifically support the genocide. So here's what I say to that, and I think this is the most important thing to consider when you're trying to decide who to vote for. If you're looking for the politicians who vote to stop sending money and weapons to Israel, they are all in the Democratic Party. If you are looking for the politicians that don't take money from AIPAC, they are all in the Democratic Party. If you're looking for the politicians that stand up to Netanyahu, they are all in the Democratic Party. So there you go. All right. So what evidence do we have that Kamala Harris was not supporting the genocide? So if you want to make the argument that Joe Biden was supporting the genocide that Israel was doing against Palestine, you could point to a lot of things. Like you could point to the fact that we continue to support them militarily, we continue to fund them and sell them weapons and send them weapons and shit like that. Now, it's a little overly simplistic, I think. I think that Joe Biden did not like what Netanyahu was doing, But I do not think that Joe Biden had a good strategy for him to stop. I think that this is partly this is due to Joe Biden having a very old brain and sort of like being stuck in this old mentality, this kind of like universally accepted for decades of quote unquote the hug Bibi strategy, meaning you support him in public but criticize him in private, otherwise he's not going to do what you say. But there were things that Biden did to try to rein in Netanyahu that the Trump administration basically reversed. Like the Biden administration put sanctions on illegal West Bank settlements, and they stopped sending Israel 2,000-pound bombs. That's not enough. No, I am not going to argue that that was enough. But there's a big difference between what Joe Biden did and what Trump is currently doing. Now, Kamala Harris was in a toughie situation. She was in a tough situation, a sticky situation, in that she was the vice president to Joe Biden and did not want to sort of like, piss all over him while she was running for president. And so she had to kind of like put in her campaigning kind of coded language for that she would be better about this than Joe Biden, that she would stand up to Netanyahu more than Joe Biden. But it was not nearly explicit enough for me and for a lot of people. But I recognized the signs. And so I recognized, okay, Biden is better on this issue than Trump is going to be. And Kamala Harris is going to be better than Biden. So ergo, she's going to be better than Trump. So I hope that answers your question, Chloe. Let me know what you think about that. Rad HG says, true, they just aren't in a majority in the DNC, but yes, you won't find anti-Israeli sentiment in the Republicans. So I don't believe that that's true anymore, Rad HG. I believe that a majority of Democrats in the Senate have voted against sending more money and weapons to Israel. I could be wrong. I don't know what the numbers are in the House. I actually don't think the votes actually made it to the House. Yeah, I don't think Mike Johnson's put up a vote for it. Yeah, I need to double check that, but I'm pretty confident that we can't even check what the House votes would be because Mike Johnson hasn't brought it up to a vote. And the one thing that I wanted to also add was that if you are looking for the politicians that AIPAC consistently goes after in order to lose them, their primary elections and their general elections, they are almost exclusively in the Democratic Party. All right, Saturn says, what is your opinion of Donald J. Trump? Donald Trump is probably the worst president we've ever had. Probably, very likely the most corrupt president we've ever had. Incompetent, a criminal, belongs in jail, etc. Mike N says, how does the U.S. heal the divide between Republicans and Democrats? So I think there's two different questions there. How do we deal with the hyperpartisanship of elected representatives? And how do we deal with the hyperpartisanship of the voters? And I think part of this is the fault of elected Republicans. Like, I think a good deal of the blame here rests in the billionaire class. Like, they have been putting a lot of money and energy into creating this idea that the voters are enemies amongst themselves, where that is not accurate. And the voters should be united against the billionaire class because they're the ones that are basically causing all of the problems. But the Republican Party is aligned with the billionaire class, so they are kind of like in league and playing into that sort of culture war bullshit that is causing that division amongst the voters. So I think part of the way that we solve that divide is, number one, we talk to people in real life so that they make sure that we know that, hey, I'm a Democratic voter, you're a Republican voter, but I don't hate you. You are not my enemy. I hope you feel the same way about me. That's number one. Number two is we need to spread the message that the internet is not real. And so there are going to be a lot of fake bots on here trying to start fights with you, calling you names for being either a Republican or a Democrat. But just remember that that is not a real person over there. And do not hate Democrats or Republicans based on interactions that you have with faceless, nameless, anonymous bot accounts that are most likely from other countries or just figments of coders' imaginations. That's number two. Number three, we need to vote against the Republican Party because not only are the Republican politicians a part of this culture war and are throwing gasoline on the fire, but they are allowing both the billionaire class to accumulate the amount of wealth that it would take to fund the culture war And also, they are voting for the kinds of legislation that is making it possible for billionaires to buy elections. And so the Democratic Party will stop both of those things given enough time and given enough power. So yeah, that's the long answer to that one. Thank you. That was an excellent question. JP, have you discussed Bernie Sanders' AI bill? We talked about it a little bit yesterday, JP. I don't think that 50% is high enough. Bernie Sanders has a bill saying that 50% of all AI profits should go back to the people. I think it should be more than that because AI doesn't exist without the collected, productivity, creativity of the human race. It exists standing on the shoulders of everything that humans have created. Every word that has come out of our mouths, every book that has been written, every play, every movie, every TV show, every conversation that you have had on the internet is the reason why AI exists. And so I think we deserve the lion's share of those profits. What is up, Average Joe? Bots now outnumber humans online. I did see that was a recent article. I kind of think that happened a long time ago, but I appreciate Forbes actually coming there with the receipts and everything. This is just a vibe thing. I think that if we had like a full digital accounting of the last 20 or 30 years, I think we would have discovered that bots outnumbered humans a long time ago. All right, just a person says, why is Western civilization most likely ignorant about the history of other civilizations? I think that part of the culture war in America is in saying that America is the most important country and you don't need to think about any other country on the planet. Don't even worry about going there. I think that the people that tend to vote for Republican politicians, they typically typically don't have passports for a reason. Is because they buy into that culture war that we're the only important country, we're the best country, so why would you even go anywhere else? Ohio Born says, why do they allow bot farms to hurt Americans and produce fear and anxiety? It helps the billionaire class, it helps the Republican Party, so they're cool with that. Azia says, why is the sentence always Israel have the right to exist, you don't have a right to occupy / take our home? I think those are two separate sentences, Azia. Like, Israel does not have the right to occupy other people's land and take their homes. But the people living in Israel are allowed to stay there. Israel, the government, is currently not respecting Palestine's right to exist, or Iran's right to exist, or Lebanon's right to exist. But America, France, Germany, the UK, Palestine, Israel, Russia, they all have the right to exist. The question is Israel respecting other countries' right to exist? And the answer is no. And I'm talking specifically about the Israeli government. I'm sure that there are a lot of citizens in Israel that are disgusted with what their government is doing, the same way that there are a lot of Americans who are currently disgusted with what their government is doing. BitNevo says, which prison would be best for Todd Blanche for lying on the floor about Trump's tax immunity? Oh, I don't know. One of the ones that's really difficult to get out of. What's that one in the Marvel universe that's underwater? Azia says, these Israeli people are taking our homes, though they took my grandfather's home in the 1960s. I don't know anything about who took your grandfather's home, but I completely agree with you. Like, that is a documented fact that West Bank settlers are kicking Palestinians out of their home and taking their land. Like, that is 100% accurate. The Biden administration put sanctions on those settlements because it was an attempt to use America's leverage to get that to stop happening. It wasn't enough, in my opinion, but it was at least something, whereas the Trump administration has reversed that policy. So I feel really bad about that. I do not want to be a part of a government that is not pushing back against that as hard as we possibly can. Okay, and I part of the reason why I do these live streams is because I'm trying to create a different America that doesn't do that shit. Daniel says, what America to the Indians is what Israel is to the Palestinians. I think that is a pretty apt analogy. Rad HG says, the Israeli people also suffer quite a lot at the hands of the government. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about how the Israeli government treats the Israeli people, but I'd be interested in learning more about that. Kyler Woolstrom says, do you have any kids? My wife and I just had our first about 6 weeks ago. Period says, are you a neoliberal phalangelist? No, I don't answer questions about phalangelism because I don't know what it is. C says, Jarrett, you can't just say it's the Israeli government, though, as the people are the ones taking their homes. Yeah, there are very shitty Israelis, the same way that there are very shitty Palestinians, the same way that there are very shitty Americans. But it is the job of the Israeli government to stop their citizens from doing the worst things. The same way that it is the job of America's government to stop ICE from doing the worst things. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Blanca Falcons, that's thoughts on California race. There are a lot of races in California. Blanca, do you have some more specific race you want me to speak about? Governor, mayor, other? Your gentle Carvey says, how important do you think nationalism is in a country? I don't think nationalism is important at all. I think patriotism is important. I don't think nationalism is important. User whole bunch of numbers says, how can you occupy a place that never existed? Are you talking about Palestine? I think the people who are living in Palestine would argue that Palestine existed. But here's the thing: if anybody wants to have this argument about, who did what first regarding Israel versus Palestine, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about the long history of this person doing that to this person doing that to this person. Right now, we need to stop the fighting. Right now, we need to stop the war. And who has the most power right now? It is their job to stop it. All right, Muzz King and Ting, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. HBM says, why USA rejected the UAE F-35 deal? I don't know anything about that. Did that just happen recently? As far as I know, America does not have a habit, especially the Trump administration does not have a habit of not selling F-35s to the UAE. Zad says, why do Europeans get paid maternity leave 4 weeks off work while being paid? We don't get any of it because people keep on voting for Republicans, Zad. Joshua Kimming says, have taxes raised since the Trump administration won the election? For everybody except for the billionaire class. Joshua, yes, 100%. Okay, let's see here. Clean Fresh Edit says, how would you describe leftism? I would describe it based on the policies. So tax the rich, use that money to help everybody else. Universal health care, free public college, more responsible policing, pathway to citizenship, clean air, clean water, clean foods, accountability for, legal accountability for people, whether they are, white or black or brown or rich or poor or whatever. And there's a lot more, obviously, but that's like, the long and short of it, I would say. Okay, Zero says, what do you think about global warming? I'm against it. It's real, and I'm against it. Your gentle Carvey says, MAGA option. What does MAGA option mean? HBM says, no, it was in 2021 when Joe Biden was in office. HBM, what are you talking about? HBM. Oh, the USA rejected the... Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Sorry, Ben. If Joe Biden didn't sell F-35s to the UAE, I think that's cool. Yeah, but I'm curious. I need to learn why, potentially they were involved in, well, what was there's a country that they were doing some shitty shit to. I forget. They didn't want them to use the F-35s on that country. I forget. I need to give that a Google. Okay, your gentle Carvey says, opinion on MAGA. I don't blame voters, but I do blame politicians. And so the MAGA politicians and MAGA talking heads are awful. And they are con artists. They are liars. They are political hacks. They are harmful. They are harming America. They are harming the world. They are harming their own voters. Okay, Chili Supremacy says, do you remember your first bar mitzvah? I mean, when I was growing up, there was like a whole bar mitzvah season in like 7th grade. Just start going to everybody's bar mitzvah. I don't remember which one was my first one. I do remember that was the first time that I discovered that sometimes in religious institutions, they still separate the women and the men. When I think it was in 7th grade, I was going to all these bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, and all my friends at the time were girls, and so I was sitting with them, and then I just kind of like looked around, and I was like, motherfucker, I am the only guy in this section. I think I fucked up. Okay, Ad says, what is your definition of liberalism? That everybody, if you want to be gay, you can be gay. If you want to be in a throuple, you can be in a throuple. If you want to, have lots of piercings and tattoos, you can have your piercings and tattoos. Liberalism is you can do whatever you want so long as it does not infringe on the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of your fellow human beings. Rad HG, you gotta fix your comments so it's not so long. It got deleted by my automated moderator. HBM says I was also confused. UAE is the biggest ally to the US in the Middle East. Plus UAE are buying USA weapons. Yeah, but the some of our allies in the Middle East are not great allies. Like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, like there's some bad shit that they're doing, and a lot of people on the left, I think, accurately criticize the government, be they a Democratic government or Republican government, in doing business with the UAE, for example. Sometimes we're over an oil barrel in dealing with the Middle East, and so I have a little bit of sympathy for certain presidential actions in regards there, but I think it's long since time that we've had to kind of like re-examine our relationship with those countries. Christian says, what do you think about U.S. wanting Greenland? The U.S. does not want Greenland. Donald Trump and his cronies want Greenland because Donald Trump is weird. All right, your gentle Carvey says the U.S. did some good stuff at first, but I think they did more shit than good. I think that is a completely acceptable argument. I am not going to die on the mountain of whether or not America is a net positive or a net negative. Louis says, opinion on the death penalty, I'm against it. Would you like me to go into more detail, Louis? Let me know. Nahom says, is this just USA and Middle East politics? I mean, American politics is my specialty. You can ask me about other countries, but I might have to just say I don't know. R says, we have had numerous Democratic presidents. I don't see paid maternity leave or greater workers' rights. So, R, it is inaccurate to believe that just because we've had Democratic presidents means that America has been able to enact the agenda of Democratic presidents. Because we have a three-bodied government. So even if we have a Democratic president, doesn't mean they can pass bills because they might have a Republican-controlled Congress or a Republican-controlled House or a Republican-controlled Senate or a Republican-controlled Supreme Court, where for the past 50 years, we've had a pretty conservative Supreme Court, so it's been very difficult for Democratic presidents to enact their agenda. Additionally, if America is going to consistently vote for more conservative politicians, then ergo you're going to get more conservative Democrats who are going to water down their Democratic priorities. But I can point you to a lot of things that Democratic presidents and Democratic administrations have done in order to expand workers' rights and give paid maternity leave and shit like that. I can show it to you on the state level, and I can show it to you on the federal level. Let me know. Your Gentle Carvey says, how likely do you think World War III is? I think it's unlikely. JD says, what are your thoughts on packing the Supreme Court? I'm against the Republican Party packing the Supreme Court. I think it was wrong of the Republican Party to pack the Supreme Court with a bunch of right-wing, activist, extremist judges like Amy Coney Barrett, like Alito, like Thomas, like Kavanaugh, like Gorsuch, etc. And I think that it is long since time that the Democratic Party rebalanced the Supreme Court by either adding seats or impeaching corrupt Supreme Court justices. R says, I have family in Europe and it's ridiculous how many workers' rights they get that we don't. R says, yes, please. All right, so for example, Joe Biden walked the picket line with the unions while he was president. That has never happened before. Joe Biden appointed a head to the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, that was siding with unions in labor disputes for the first time, more so than any NLRB in 50 years. The Biden administration negotiated paid sick days for the rail workers union. In California, they have paid maternity leave. My wife is currently getting paid, not because we have a policy of paid maternity leave at her job or in the local government, but the Democratic-run California government has made it so that women get paid maternity leave. Let's see here. What else? Lina Khan was appointed to the FTC under the Biden administration, and Lina Khan was breaking up monopolies, which was a win for workers. The Affordable Care Act was an attempt to rein in big business from the from the health insurance industry, so making it impossible for the health insurance industry to deny care because of pre-existing conditions, things like that. There are lots of other things, but that's just off the top of my head. All right, let's see here. Rad, HE's opinion on Executive Order 6102, criminalization of owning gold, and whether you think it was necessary, done by FDR in the 30s, repealed in the 70s. That one's way over my head. RD Rad HG. Was that what you put earlier that got deleted by my moderator? Yeah, that is over my head. Luis, his opinion on Thomas Massie. So, if I'm grading Republicans on a curve, Thomas Massie is one of the best ones. But he still voted for the big, beautiful bill. He still voted for a lot of Trump's nominees. If you still call yourself a Republican, what do you fucking stand for besides cutting taxes for the rich and cutting regulations for their businesses? So they're all every Republican politician is terrible because they are still caping trickle down economics, supply side economics, the Laffer curve, whatever the fuck you want to call it, while we are suffering under the worst income inequality in American history, worse than the Gilded Age, which is an age that was named after how bad the income inequality was. Like, what the fuck are you doing? All right, Pace says, what do you think about Peter Magyar? I don't know who that is. RR says, do you think Kurdistan should be independent? I don't know. Shira Shaul says, what about Israel and the whole situation? That is a really big question. How do you solve what is going on in Israel? I think the first thing that America needs to do is use their leverage to rein in the right-wing government of Israel and Netanyahu. So no more weapons, no more money right now. Yesterday, that should have happened. After that, we can talk about other steps, but that's priority number one, I would see. C says, why are a lot of Democratic politicians not socialists leaning? Well, I would say that the general population of America is a little more conservative than would vote for that. And so I think a lot of them are making a political calculation in only being as left leaning as they believe is politically viable, or as they believe. Like, maybe some of them just don't believe in it. But if you're looking for the politicians that are, like that, they're all in the Democratic Party. Your Gentle Carvey says, why aren't they doing anything about Afghanistan's atrocities? That is a really difficult issue, Your Gentle Carvey, because currently, if I understand correctly, Afghanistan is under the rule of the Taliban. America was just in Afghanistan holding the Taliban at bay for 20 years. It was a fucking quagmire. It was a fucking nightmare. It was expensive. It cost a lot of human lives. And it did not work. And so the Trump administration basically said to the Taliban, we're going to leave. You can have Afghanistan. Just please don't murder us as we're leaving. And they were like, bet. And then Trump left office, leaving Biden to actually accomplish that. And so, it was a fucking nightmare of a war. It was a fucking nightmare of a withdrawal, thanks to Trump. And so, how does America then try to get their hands back in Afghanistan and stop what the Taliban is doing? Like, I've got no fucking idea. But we do not want to have too strong of a hand in that country anymore. Like, we saw what happened in the past. I don't know how we solved that problem. We had good people working on that problem for a long time, and it just kept on getting worse and worse. Okay, Zat says, do you view the U.S. as the best country? No, there's no best country. Every country is exactly as good as every other country. Governments are better or worse. Like, I think that America has a really bad government right now, for example. Christopher Ebie says, name 3 countries in North Europe. Okay, I mean, I guess it depends on where you would start that, but I'm pretty sure Norway is in there, the Netherlands is in there, Sweden is in there, I'm pretty sure. What else? Where else are we there? Are we including Scotland? Are we including Wales and the UK, Okay, let's see here. Somebody whose characters I can't read says, what do you think about my country? I don't know what your country is, but I'm sure that the people who live there are great. Let's see here. Christopher says the Netherlands are not there. I'm pretty sure. I mean, so is there so there's that waterway that separates. That's that the Netherlands are on the coast of, right? Are you saying anything south of there doesn't count as Northern Europe? So Germany doesn't count, even though it's pretty far north, Finland, thank you. Finland, Norway, Scotland, Ireland, Western Europe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where your line is. Do you want to give me the exact fucking longitude and latitude of countries I'm supposed to be naming? Okay, let's see here. Shall the continued range of time people view it as necessary for Great Depression and government overreach? Force citizens to sell gold to the state fixed at $20 an ounce. Oh, interesting. I'm curious what you think, Red HG. Which of FDR's policies do you think was the most responsible for getting America out of the Great Depression? Do you put that one in the top 5, the top 10, etc.? All right, somebody whose name characters I can't read says, "What do you think of the White House UFC card?" I think the Trump administration really does not have their priorities straight, in that they are spending so much time putting together a UFC fight on the White House lawn and building a golden ballroom and covering statues in solid gold and redesigning the Kennedy Center and building a triumphal arch. Like, are you not aware that people are struggling in an economy that you are destroying? Are you not aware that we're currently involved in another forever war in the Middle East that is not going well for us, that is costing American lives, that is costing American taxpayer dollars? Are you not aware that your own immigration enforcement organizations are committing atrocities at detention centers and are straight up murdering people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy? Like, why are you so fucking concerned with interior and exterior design right now? With healthcare costs spiraling and the cost of gas fucking out of control and massive layoffs happening in every company, unemployment numbers skyrocketing. Why are you doing no bid contracts on all those construction projects? Seems pretty corruption adjacent that you would be doing that. Okay, Rudy says Democrat or Republican. I'm a Democrat. Kalale says I want to be a political man of Somalia and I'm 20 years old and the legislation allows above 45. Well, do some organizing and convincing. Maybe you can get people to vote to change that number, Christopher says, what are your beliefs on Israel? I think that the people there are perfectly fine, but the government is terrible. The government of Israel is awful. The Netanyahu administration is guilty of war crimes, and many independent agencies, including those located within Israel, have decreed that what they are doing is a genocide against the people of Palestine. Shork says, what will yesterday's House vote on the War Powers Act do? Right now, nothing. It'll go over to the Senate, and if the Senate votes on it, then that could potentially end the war in Iran in its tracks. Okay, Gosh says, what do you think about communism? It depends on how you define it. If you define communism as the workers under the means of production, then I am for it. Okay, let's see here. Rad HG says, I agree with WPA and most national policy FDR brought in along with all workers' rights, but I highly disagree with the U.S. seizing gold / reshifting focus to central banking Federal Reserve. I view FDR using the crisis of the Great Depression to seize more power through federalizing banking and improving the Fed's standing. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really have strong thoughts about that. I think Keynesian economics and the WPA were probably instrumental in ending the Great Depression. But I would like to hear the red team, blue team argument for central banking Federal Reserve because I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting that a progressive president, arguably the most progressive president we had until the Biden administration, decided to do something like that. What is the progressive argument for that? That sounds very interesting to me. Brian B says, do you think Trump is setting up for a third term? So the only thing that I think will keep Trump from attempting to stay in office until he dies is either he has health issues that take him out of office. That could either be him passing away or there's certain times that he seems like too tired to try to do another insurrection. If you asked me this question a year ago, and I would have bet the fucking house that Trump is going to try to stay in office until he's dead. I'm a little less sure now because he really does seem like he is knocking on not heaven's door. So yeah, I think that's that should his health maintain, I think that he is going to do everything that he can, legal or otherwise. I think particularly illegal things, because he seems to have a knack for that shit, to try to stay in office until he's dead. And whether that means just hiding out in the 6 stories below the new ballroom situation, or petitioning the Supreme Court to run for a 3rd term or some shit like that, like, I got no fucking idea. But he's gonna try if he can. If he's physically able, he's gonna try. Gosh says, do you think the U.S. government was involved in the 9/11 attacks? No, in so much as I don't think that they organized it, but you could argue that they had like malicious incompetence. You know, if you read the 9/11 Commission, the intelligence agencies were handing them intelligence in the the daily briefings, basically saying that Osama bin Laden is intent on striking American soil, and they're potentially going to use airplanes to do it. And the Bush administration, the W. Bush administration, took that intelligence and then gave it back to the intelligence agencies and said, okay, interesting, find me a reason to invade Iraq, please. Kawale says, how can I be a spy? I've got no idea. Big Dog Baron says, minority left opinions. I don't know what that means. Your Gentle Carvey says, China, Philippines, tensions, opinions. I think it would take a really deft political hand to stop China from their attempted expansionism. I do not believe that Trump is that skilled negotiator. I think that he is probably bored with trying to solve problems and is probably down with trying to do whatever the fuck they want, so long as they do not increase more prices for American goods, so that he can tell people that he was a great negotiator and got a great trade deal. Shork says, who do you think Republican leadership wants for president? Ooh, that is a really good question. It's a really good question. I think the sort of like neoliberals are probably looking at Rubio over Vance. I don't think it's going to be either one of them, though. I think that if it is either Rubio or Vance, I think that I think the Democratic Party has a really good chance, has a really good shot in 28. All right, Optimus says, we need a moderate. A moderate what? A moderate Democrat or a moderate Republican? Because I would fucking love a Bernie Sanders style Democrat to win the nomination, but that's not really up to me. Okay, Christopher says, what do you think about raw milk? It's dangerous to drink. DJ says, is the youth becoming more conservative or liberal? So that's a really good question, DJ, and I don't think that the younger generations are becoming more conservative. I think that certain communities of young people are becoming more conservative, specifically younger men are becoming more conservative than they used to be. I don't think that it's an organic thing that's happening. I don't think that young people are living their lives and reading the news and deciding to become more conservative. I think that they are being manipulated, because I think that the billionaire class and the Republican Party have discovered a mechanism to create more voters, which is to create this culture war and to fund people that go to college campuses like Charlie Kirk, that go to college campuses and trick children into being conservatives. They put a lot of time, money, and energy into propagandizing places where young people hang out, like social media and chat rooms for video games and shit like that. I don't believe that the popularity of the manosphere is organic, and that I think is largely responsible for a lot of young men becoming more conservative. But it's definitely not the younger generations en masse. There are plenty of young women who are continuing to be progressive. Okay, Gosh says, can we get Kawale out of here? Sure. What are they doing? What are they doing? You're speaking so fast. Kawale, this is your final warning. Stop spamming the chat. Christopher says, freedom over government. Yeah, it's the Rocketeer. You're fine. You're fine muting Kawale. I'm fine with that. Okay. Yeah, Christopher, I don't know what you mean by freedom over government. Okay. Our Rad HG says, he saw FDR get 3 terms actively gunning for the same circumstances. I mean, FDR was able to do 3 terms because there wasn't a law yet. So that's it that they couldn't. What's up, Bo G? Manufactured crisis in Iran, then fucking over Bernie pushing Hillary was the biggest blunder of the century. Rad, I think that it is clear and indisputable that the Democratic Party put their finger on the scale for both Clinton and Biden. But I do not believe that that made a difference. I believe if you look at the numbers, if you look at the vote totals, I think that the voters picked Clinton and Biden over Bernie in both 2016 and 2020. I do not believe that the influence of the Democratic Party was so powerful as to give those nominees that many millions and millions of more votes than Bernie Sanders got. Okay, Boiling Cough Drop says, are you more conservative or left-leaning? I'm left-leaning. Supercoach, hello, back. Costa says, do you think USA should reduce aid to Israel? I think that we should stop aid to Israel. It is illegal for us to continue sending them money and weapons, as they have been found guilty of doing war crimes. We already have a law that says we're not allowed to send them any more money and weapons. Also, I think it's the morally right thing to do, to not continue to support a country that is doing war crimes. Gosh says, if someone with the same far left ideas similar to Mamdani ran for the presidency, would you support? Yeah, 100%. But again, it's not my decision. It's the decision of the voters, you know? When in 2020, I was fucking doing the work to try to get Elizabeth Warren elected. When she dropped out, I switched to Bernie Sanders. And then when Bernie dropped out, I was like, all right, I guess Biden's the nominee. Let's fucking go. When Bernie was running in 2016, I did my fucking damnedest to get him to win the primary. But the voters decided, no, we'd rather have Hillary Clinton because we think she has a better chance of winning. And they were wrong, you know, or at least we think they were wrong. We don't know what the Trump-Sanders campaigns would have looked like. Muzz King and Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. That means that it is time for us to move over to finger hearts. We've had so few finger hearts since my child was born. I'm not blaming little Gemma for that. I'm just saying. Real Benda says, did you ever work on a political campaign before? I have never been hired by a political campaign, but I have what do you call it? I have volunteered for many political campaigns. Hamzana says, Palestine or Israel? I support the citizens of both countries. I do not support the governing bodies of either country. Talk says, you still support Trump? I never supported Trump. Did not in the past, do not now, will not in the future. It's the Rocketeer says, whoa, the kiddo was here? I missed a season. Congrats, dude. I dipped. I was out of here for a month, man. Did you not notice my absence? It's the Rocketeer. Your Gentle Carvey says, are you pro-Palestine? I am exactly pro-Palestine as I am pro-Italy and pro-Germany and pro-Scotland and pro-Russia and pro-Israel. It's about supporting the people that live in those countries as opposed to supporting the government. Ali Country says, so hey, and Jay's a question, what do you think about Lebanon? I know absolutely nothing about the government of Lebanon, but I support the citizens of Lebanon the same way that I support the citizens of Iran and Italy and the Netherlands, you know, insert country name there. People from Belize. Boji says, so what's the whole drama about Trump crashing out on Netanyahu? I think that Trump is finally seeing the damage that that him enabling Netanyahu is causing for him and the Republican Party. And he is trying his best to get Netanyahu to stop being Netanyahu, but he's not actually doing anything. Like, he's not putting any pressure on Netanyahu besides yelling at him over the phone. It's basically just therapy. It was basically therapy for Trump. He wanted to yell at somebody, and Netanyahu was on the phone, so he yelled at Netanyahu. But I am not going to give him any credit for finally saying to Netanyahu things that he should have said to him a year ago, and also not actually using America's leverage over Israel to get them to stop starting wars and doing war crimes. Jad says, do you think Democrats' stance on Israel will be a massive impact on whether people will vote for them? So I think it's really interesting the way that you put that question, Jad, because if you are looking for the Democrats, if you're looking for the politicians that stand up to Israel and Netanyahu, they are all in the Democratic Party. If you're looking for the politicians that don't take AIPAC money, they are all in the Democratic Party. If you're looking for the politicians that are currently voting no on sending more money and weapons to Israel, they are all in the Democratic Party. So is it possible that the billionaires who own the social media algorithms are going to be able to convince people that the Democratic Party is exactly as bad about Israel as the Republican Party is? That's an open question. And it is something that I am actively trying to fight against here on social media 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. But we are not going to be able to get every single Democratic politician to stop taking AIPAC money. We are not going to be able to stop every single Democrat from equivocating on, pushing back against Netanyahu and saying that what he's doing is a genocide or even war crimes or whatever. But if we want to enable the politicians who are doing those things, then we got to vote for Democrats. End of story. Marwankel Katie says, who do you support, Palestine or Israel? Why do people think you're only allowed to support one country? I support the citizens of both of those countries, and I do not support the governments of either of those countries. Let's see here. Isaiah Stephen Caleb says, who's your favorite U.S. Senator? Chris Murphy, Connecticut. Gosh says, for everyone spamming, he is pro-Palestine and Israel, but mostly seems to condemn Israel rightfully. Thank you, Gosh. That's not exactly how I would describe it, but yeah. Israel is the more powerful of the nations that is continuing that conflict. So I believe it is their responsibility to end the conflict. Africa Cap says, which book should I read? I just got Anatomy of the States and Road to Surf from I'm an ANCAP. I don't know what an ANCAP is. I think, depending on what you want to learn about, first of all, I have a great Discord recommendations thread. If you go to my bio and you click on the link, it'll send you to my Discord channel. And there's a whole thread there of recommendations for books and podcasts. But top of my list are Giving Up is Unforgivable, The Persuaders, Dark Money, Politics is for Power is another good one. Winners Take All. Yeah, but there's a bunch. There's a bunch of really good ones. Scuba Steve says, I miss Dementia Joe. I miss him too, Scuba Steve. Denny's says, what do you think about Ukraine versus Russia? Russia illegally is trying to annex Ukraine, and we should do everything we can to stop them, because if we don't, then they could potentially next invade a NATO country, and then we will be contractually obligated to get into a hot war with another nuclear power, which sounds bad to me. It's the Rocketeer says, Doc Mario by Johnny Mayer mentioned, everybody take a shot. Accurate. Okay. Gosh says, do you study political philosophies like Marxism? So I did a little bit when I was in college. Gosh, the thing that really gets my goat about certain political philosophies is that they are so, the discourse around them is so heated that people can't even agree on what those words mean anymore. And so I can't come out here and say I'm a Marxist or I'm a socialist or I'm a democratic socialist or anything, because people will have their own definition of that. If I tell you that I like politicians like Mamdani and AOC, people will come back at me and go, oh, so you want America to be like Venezuela and Russia and China and North Korea? And I'm like, no, that's not what those things mean at all. So yeah, I think we need to be a little bit more specific in our language. So when people say, like, are you for Marxism? I'm like, hey, I'm for workers owning the means of production. I am for, the lowest paid employees having a seat on the board of directors. I am for, CEOs not being paid more than 50 times what their lowest paid employee makes. I'm for tax breaks for employee-owned companies, etc., etc. Real Benda says, recent poll shows opposition party coalition led by Benny Gantz is leading. Thoughts? So if I remember correctly, and, international politics is not my strong suit, it was better that a politician like Benny Gantz be elected prime minister than Netanyahu, and Benny Gantz then would have either a coalition government or be able to sort of like direct Israeli policy. I don't think he's like perfect. If I'm remembering correctly, there's still some like very, very good and accurate criticisms you can make about Benny Gantz. But if I'm remembering correctly, he is a step up from Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu, like a big step up from Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir. Again, double check all of that, everybody, because there's too many countries in the world for me to keep track of everybody's politicians. Triska, Muzz King, and Super Coach, thank you so much for helping me reach my first Finger Hearts goal. We are really cooking today, everybody. But we are at an hour, so we got to start wrapping things up. Excuse me. Whew, boy. Alrighty, where was I? If you want to support the show financially, you can. You don't have to. I know we're all struggling, but if you think that what I'm doing here is beneficial for the world and you want to support what I'm doing here, then the mechanisms exist. You can send gifts on TikTok, you can send bits on Twitch. You can be a super fan on TikTok, you can be a subscriber on Twitch. And you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free using your Amazon Prime account. Costs you zero, helps me out a ton. So if you have Amazon Prime, go subscribe to my Twitch account for free. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. There's a very fun incentive, though, at $10 a month if you can afford that. Much love to all of my regular financial contributors. Pliff, Average Joe, Triska, Lauren, Grimicus, It's the Rocketeer, the two Seans, D, Shannon, Carmine, and Patrick, if you would like to have your name read at the end of the show as well. Be a Twitch subscriber, a TikTok superfan, or a Patreon subscriber. If there are any questions that you have that I was not able to get to on this live stream, or anything comes up later when I'm not streaming, do not be shy about reaching out. I want to be a resource for you, to be more informed and more involved in politics. So if there's a way that I can do that, use me and abuse me, use me until I'm all used up. My goals do not stop when the live stream is over. I want you to be a part of the solution. So hit me up via my DMs. My DMs are open. Email me through my website. Link is in the bio, or hit me up on my Discord channel. Link is in the bio. And again, the Discord channel is great because there's recommendations there for books and podcasts. There's a great community of people there who talk about politics in a way that is very much not being a dick. If anybody is being a dick on there, I will boot them. I promise you. Just let me know. And lastly, there's recommendations there for civic actions that we should all be taking. Like, there is work that we all need to be doing. And no matter who you are, no matter what your life looks like, there is work that you can be doing and should be doing. If you don't have time but you have money, there are great places for you to be donating. If you don't have money but you have time, there are great places for you to be volunteering. If you don't have either, there is still things that you can do. I guarantee it. And if you need help finding those things, just reach out to me and I will help you find those things. I've done it before for other people and I will do it again. You know, sound off if I have helped you find an organization to volunteer for or whatever. But yeah, the only way we get out of this is if people do the work. The only way that we get a better country is if people like you and me do the work. I want you to imagine a country where we don't have to fucking live like this. We don't have to worry if the water coming out of our faucet is safe to drink, or the food that we are eating is safe to eat, or the medications that we are eating are safe to take. I don't want you to have to worry about the data center being fucking propped up right next to your house and giving all of your fucking kids cancer. I don't want, imagine a world where you don't have to worry about, can I afford a place to live, or can I afford to put food on the table, or can I afford health care, or can I afford to send my kids to a good school? It is possible to have that kind of world. The only thing that we need to give up in order to have that kind of world is billionaires. So seems like a pretty safe trade to me, in my opinion. But the only way that we get there is by banding together and fighting against what the billionaire class is trying to achieve. And what they're trying to achieve is getting us to fight amongst ourselves, getting us to get brainwashed by their fucking online propaganda, and getting us to vote for Republican politicians, because Republican politicians help the billionaire class way more than the Democratic Party does. So get out there and do that work. That is the only way that we get out of this fucking shit show. All right. Nim Janeb says, if you have two political parties but neither is right, who do you side with? Better is better and worse is worse. Nima, do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If there's a political party that you think is better, even by that much, then you vote for them. Also, and I don't think enough people are saying this, that if there are politicians in the Democratic Party that you like, but you can't vote for them because you don't live in New York, so you can't vote for Mamdani or AOC, or you don't live in Vermont, so you can't vote for Bernie Sanders or whatever, voting for ex-Democrat, whatever Democrat that lives in your area, gives more power to people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. That is a hard fact about American politics that nobody is fucking talking about. You want to fucking punish your specific Democrat for being too centrist? Well, you just fucked over Mamdani and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Tallarico and Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy, all the fucking best Democrats. You just fucked them in the ass because you didn't like whoever is running for the House district in your area or whatever. All right, everybody. Better is worse, and worse is worse. Do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Be good to each other. Do the work, and be good for each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have an excellent Thursday, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.